introduce you properly.
For sure.
All right, what's going on, everybody in the chat that's listening right now? We will be getting started shortly. Just trying to see who's all in the chat right now. No, Auntie, you did not miss it. Let's see who else is here. I need to go ahead while I'm here. I need to go ahead and share this to my various social media accounts. I got too many, but I guess that's a good thing. But I'm so glad that this is actually happening right now. As you can see by the title, it says the Ratchet Rouge discussion with DaGrinchGod. Some of you may have heard of him. And if you have not, you're going to find out what he's all about today. And we're also going to discuss this brand new book that he's come out with. I currently have him waiting in the queue right now because I said I wanted to introduce him properly. Probably get started in a couple more minutes. I see we also have some people from the Black Order over here as well. This is going to be a very interesting discussion. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Grinch, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Grinch, can you hear me?
Yeah, my bad.
Okay. I was getting worried for a second. I was like, oh shit. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm good, man. You know, it's the Grinch, man, the hand sipper, gorilla and strag killer. What's going on?
What's going on? But yeah, this is, I guess you could say, round 2 for your world tour, quote unquote, for your book. Because
Right.
you was on BGS Itmore last night.
Right.
And now you over with Petty P today.
Hell yeah, Petty Pendergrass Productions. You know what I'm saying? We already know what it is, man. Black Order Gang.
Right. But go ahead and let the people know who you are, just in case they're not familiar with you, because you have been on my channel once before, but this is the first time you're on my channel and it's just us talking for a more, I guess you could say, a more longer period of time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I go by the Grinch. You know, everybody call me, DaGrinchGod P. You know what I mean? part of the Black Order, part of the Gray Regime, part of Immore Dynasty. You know, I have a channel. It encourages brothers to think critically and to implement intellectual standards. You know, I'm a military veteran, as well as a business owner, as well as an analyst. And so now this is just another thing I'm adding on to the list, which is becoming an author and contributing a little bit to the manosphere, to the Black manosphere.
Okay. So, what made you want to write this book?
Well, being in the manosphere and discovering a space where Black men were allowed to speak their minds, it was the exchanging of information. It was about progression. It was about elevation and education. And I've been able to get a lot of good information, a lot of knowledge out of the manosphere. And I wanted to give back because not only do I understand the circumstances that Black people go through in this country, specifically Black men, but I did the research, and so have various brothers in the manosphere to understand why we have the circumstances that we have.
Now, the book just came out. Like I told you, like I found when it got released on the day it got released, which was about 2 weeks ago, it came out on the Kindle version of it. And before I go any further, the link to the book is in the description. And I got the Kindle version of the book. I didn't even have the Kindle app on my phone, but I downloaded it that day and I read the book all in one sitting. It took me about a good 2.5 hours to do it. I had some downtime at work. And let me tell y'all, this book right here is very, very, very. I can't like say it enough. Eye opening. It definitely is. Like it's eye opening on various levels, both for men and for women, especially for the women though. And I would say that it's some stuff in there that needed to be addressed. And I think I said it could not have come from a better person other than Grinch, the person who wrote the book. I remember when you kept talking about the book for months, and we was like, okay, Grinch, we can't wait to see it. I said the hype is there, like you're putting a lot of hype behind it. We know you're not gonna let us down, and you definitely didn't.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say would be a big lesson to take away from the book?
The biggest, I wanted to accomplish two things with the book. For one, I wanted to I wanted to come with empirical, factual, and historical evidence to explain and give a background on what we're dealing with today. And that was my number one point. But I also wanted to be able to reinstill self-worth into brothers, because every time you turn around, there's somebody telling a young brother that he's never going to be shit, that he's never going to be nothing. And so I wanted to counter that niggas ain't shit narrative with the truth. And the truth is our absolution. So what really the one takeaway that I want Black men to have from this book, or people who support Black men, is that Black men can do whatever we set out to do. We don't have to define ourselves by a system that doesn't appreciate us, a system that refuses to acknowledge our combat readiness, our genius, our ability. And I want brothers to take away from this the sense of obligation to a society or a community that has not had our best interests at heart. Basically, I want brothers to read this and understand the position that we're in, and understand that they are the captains of their own ship. They choose their destiny. They're the masters of their own destiny.
Okay. Well, first of all, I go any further, I have to give two shout outs as well. Shout out to Kendra D, who is currently doing her own stream right now. Otherwise, she would probably be in this chat, because she edited the book. And also, I have to give a shout out to Art New Style because he came up with the artwork for the book. And let me tell y'all, the artwork that's put in this book is it's like it's definitely let's just say it looks like something that could have came out of the Boondocks.
It's legendary, man. You know, all I did was tell him what the chapter names were, and I was like, go ahead, do your thing. And man, when I say he delivered, man, he knows just like how I know. That man delivered. That artwork is hilarious.
It definitely worked, especially for one particular chapter, but I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. But one thing that I have to ask, and I think many of my subscribers will probably like to know this as well. Right. How did you come up with the word strag?
Well, strag is something that me and my homies use. Actually, growing up, you know, I'm from the south side of Atlanta, and you know, we used to call, you know, a skeezer, you know, a strag. You know what I mean? And it's just something that me and my homies used to describe an undesirable acting woman. So, and basically, I took that concept and, you know, we have the difference between the ratchet and the strag is that the ratchet still, you can be ratchet or have ratchet moments, but still be the best version of yourself. Mm-hmm. A strag is somebody who's doubled down on their dysfunction. And so they can't ever escape that ratchet title. You know, the strag is what perpetuates the, you know, the nonsense that is, you know, passed around as knowledge in the Black community.
Right. And it's crazy because like it's become so popular that you find a lot of people are using it in their videos. I can admit I'm one of them, but I always give credit where credit is due. I will always say the word strag and I'd be like, shout out to Grinch for coming up with that terminology. And not only that, but the word strag made it into Urban Dictionary.
Oh yeah. You know, my name is actually attached to that. If you look,
I just happened because I guess one day I just went on to Google and I wanted to like let me see if this word actually has a definition to it because I don't know what it is. And I typed it in and I kid you not, Urban Dictionary is the first thing that comes up and it says what a strag is and it said credit to the Grinch God.
Right.
And I remember when I had saw that, I had immediately told you because I don't think you knew at the time that they had put it up there. And you went and you saw it and you was like, wow, he actually got to an actual website. Like someone published your term on a website.
Yeah, that's how it goes, man. I'm from Atlanta, man. I can't help but kick flavor, and you know the people love the lingo. So a strag is a struggling hag. It's just a combination of the two words, strag, struggling, hag. And you look up the definition of hag, it is of an older woman, right? An older, miserable, or mean-spirited woman, and that's what continues to perpetuate the nonsense that is fed to the youth, Black boys and Black girls alike.
Right. And the thing is, I didn't even know it was struggling hag until I saw it in the chat one day. And shout out to Katz because she's in the chat right now. Because she said what it was because somebody had asked what is a strag. And I still didn't know what it was. I thought it was just a word you just kind of came up with. And then she said struggling hag. I was like, oh, now it makes sense. You just took two words and put them together. And it actually works. A struggling hag.
Yep. So it's been real, you know. I like the fact that the people like the lingo because you know, Black people traditionally we've always made something out of nothing, or we've made things that are makeshift. But making, you know what I'm saying, creating something that you know, that people can identify with. Hopefully y'all not identifying with strag, but if you can identify,
better not be.
Yeah, if you can identify the strag, then and y'all got that through me, then hey, I'm humbled and I'm glad that I was able to add something to the community.
And let's be real here. Some people have had a little bit. So let's put it this way: there is a strag or a few strags in every family.
Right.
But the thing that you want to do is try not to have that strag rub off on you.
Right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I don't have no problem talking about a strag on my channel. If I see it, I'm gonna say something like that one I did about that mother twerking at her son's graduation.
Oh my God. That I seen that video that you posted. Yeah, that's
And
yeah.
she made sure she stood out with that bright yellow one.
With the yellow cat suit though. She knows she wrong.
But how long did it take you to write the book?
Um Well, I'll start from the beginning. So initially, I wasn't like I wanted to write a book. It was on my bucket list, and in fact, it was like the last thing on my bucket list, right? And uh, I was having a conversation with Char Willie. You know what I'm talking about. Char
Yeah.
Willie. She got a channel. Just ask Char, and she pretty much I guess kind of convinced me to go ahead and do it. And so when I started writing the book, it was, I'm not going, I didn't know it was going to be this fun doing it, like making myself laugh. And so it took me about, I want to say 3 months, maybe a little bit over 3 months to write the book. And this is every day waking up, I might do my stream or whatever, and then I work on the book for a couple hours and then come back to it. But around 3 or 4 months it took me.
That's actually fairly quick for a book, because usually when some people say they're writing a book, they'll say it'll take them like a year or more to write something like that. And those are people who have deadlines. And it says
Right.
it'll take them that long to write that. But you independently published this book.
Right, exactly. Hey, but it's not hard when you're the subject matter expert on it. I'll tell you about Strags all day. I'm from Southside Atlanta. Look, I grew up with the beast.
Shout out to Kendra for that one.
Right, exactly. Shout out to Kendra D for that term, man. The beast. I actually got a chapter in the book called "Captivating the Beast."
hmm And let me talk about like the chapters right quick. What would you say was the chapter that you really liked writing the most? Because there's a few of them in there. All of them are good, but what would you say was the one it could be a two-part question. Which one did you like writing the best, and which one did you hate writing?
I liked writing the best one by far is the Brotherhood.
Okay.
And the Brotherhood is a chapter that is me directly addressing the thinking black men of the community. And I even mentioned while I write it, I mentioned that everybody, people, every time people talk about black men,
hmm
they usually start with some type of reference to the struggle. And I didn't want to do that because I think we already know, we already know that story. That's the mainstream story. But what they don't tell you is all our accomplishments, everything that we've achieved, despite all the challenges, the lesser subpar circumstances. They don't ever speak on these things. When we have been the deciding factors in everything from combat to the innovations that we take for granted to this day. And I think because of the niggas ain't shit narrative, a lot of brothers have internalized this inferiority complex. And so that's why for me, I wrote this book. The book is dedicated to the fathers, brothers, and sons, who are American descendants of slaves. And it to me, that was the best chapter because I got to combat that narrative and reinstill self-worth into brothers, because look, we all we got. And if we don't support each other and we don't love each other, then I mean, who else is? But the worst chapter to write, or I'll say the hardest chapter to write, I liked writing the whole book, so I'll just name the most difficult chapter. The most difficult chapter to write is the one that took me the longest, which was Plantation Politics and Absolution,
Okay.
which I go into the details about why we're dealing with what we're dealing with, and pretty much giving brothers absolution by giving them the truth. There's a lot of historical things that can be looked up. I pulled from a lot of places. I pulled from the Census Bureau. I pulled from the Library of Congress. I pulled from books such as Daughters of the Trade, where they had actual uh, uh, memoirs from European Dutch traders and merchants. I pulled from the history on the Gold Coast of Africa, and I combined these things that we speak on in the manosphere in a book that clearly defines and clearly outlines what exactly happened and why certain narratives are completely false. So, I mean, to me, that's the most important chapter in the whole book. But it was just for the fact of how much reading I had to do before I wrote it, how much research I had to do before I wrote it. That was the challenge with that chapter.
Yeah, I can understand why you said that, because that, and now that you say that, it makes sense, because that's the chapter right there that even outside of your book and even in live streams that you've done, and even where Angry Man had talked about it too in a live stream he just recently did when it came to the plantation politics part.
Right.
That right there, that chapter right there is the hard pill to swallow.
Right.
That particular chapter, I would say, like, say like this, because it's it's eye opening both for the men and the women, because it's eye opening for the men because it's like, wow, I can't believe they did that to us, and then for the women it should be, I can't believe we did that to them.
Right.
So for those of you who have not read the book yet, when you get to that part about the plantation politics, that's going to be the part right there that's probably going to make your jaw drop. That's probably the jaw dropping chapter right there. As I'll just title it that.
Right. That's why I put it last for the first part, because I'm trying to empower brothers and give sisters an understanding that the conditions that we see, these attitudes and these narratives that are oh so familiar, you know, I wanted to paint a picture, a accurate picture, of where they come from, because nothing just, too many people don't ask the question why something is. And if you don't ask why, you're more inclined to just accept whatever is handed to you as the truth, which is why I promote critical thinking on my channel, is because, that's the only way I see people who are so-called black get ahead. It's through critical thinking, and it's through the acknowledgement of things that actually happened, the empirical evidence, the historical evidence. These things matter, and you're right. That is the hardest part of the book to swallow, because you know it's the things that nobody has told you, and but the thing is, once you read it, everything makes sense. What you see on the day to day, it makes sense. And the thing is, what you understand, you can conquer.
Mm-hmm. I would say my favorite chapter, and I've already told a couple people this, is the I don't know the name of it. I can't remember the name of the chapter, but I'm going to say it's this one, the lead with degree chapter.
Oh, the educated Ratchet.
Yes, that one right there had to be my favorite chapter, especially after this encounter I had with this Strengh that I had to put on blast in a live stream a couple weeks ago, because she came onto my channel just like popping them gums, and then she talked about I have 2 degrees. I said, oh, you just had to leave with that degree, didn't you? And then, because it's so funny, I did a video back in January that came from Black Enterprise a year prior to that, and they were talking about how Black women have maybe, or so they say, have the most degrees, but they accrue the most student loan debt.
Hey,
When I saw that figure of how much debt Black women, and I think they broke it down by married, single, and something like to that point. They said single Black women who have a degree or multiple degrees have a net worth of, is in the negatives. I think it's like a negative
Negative
11,000.
11,000. Yes,
I
that's
said,
you got the number
"Oh
right.
my God."
Yeah, yeah,
That was
that's
that completely blew my mind when I saw that. And that goes back to what Valdez and Kendra be saying, these women out here getting degrees in basket weave
yeah,
and
and
basket
basically,
weaving.
and then
Well,
shitting
basically,
on brothers for because they think they're better, even though the blue collar worker is in the black.
and basically like when they said basket weaving, they were just throwing that out there as a joke. They basically said if they were getting degrees in anything outside of maybe, like being a teacher or some kind of educator, or especially in the STEM department, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics,
Right.
especially that engineering part, then her degree really wouldn't mean nothing. And they found that a lot of women fall outside of those parameters. I mean, you don't find a lot of black women in STEM. It's very rare that you'll find them. I'm not saying that they aren't there, because there are some there. I actually just did a story about a black woman whose company literally got passed down from her grandfather, who was a former slave, down through generations, and that was in the engineering field. And she still has ownership of it today. So I'm not saying that black women aren't in the STEM department, but there aren't as many as there should be. I mean, look at Robert F. Smith. He got a degree from Cornell University in STEM, and that's what he built his company off of, and making him $5.5 billion richer, wealthier. He
Right.
has his generational wealth intact.
Right, for sure. And look, black people, if you're going to go to college, yeah, we should be encouraging people to enter the STEM program. Like I'm a college graduate, but I don't have a STEM degree. You know,
Me neither. Me neither. And looking back on it, I kind of be like, maybe I should have looked at that STEM department, because I always wondered why the STEM department always got the most money. Like they would get like all kinds of funding, and we would get whatever was left over.
right, exactly. Like the only way, like to be honest, the only reason why my degree's been able to work for me like how it has is simply because I entered the military and had experience. Without that, if I would have just went to college for business like how I did, who
Yeah.
knows what type of shape I would have been in. So I mean, the only reason I really have options is simply because of my experience. So I would encourage all those who are looking at college, especially those going directly into it, to go into a STEM field. My brother's in the STEM field. He's in medical, so he's a nurse, and he's living just fine. Just bought a house in the burbs. Got two kids and a wife. He's on his American dream type shit. But even though I'm not gonna say that like that even exists anymore, but if it did, my brother is living that, and he's doing that through a STEM degree.
Right. Because I rarely hear of anybody who has a STEM degree struggling. Like they literally can get a job right after college. Some of them already have a job lined up before they even walk across the stage.
Right, exactly. There are some exceptions. Like I see the Revolutionary Tribe of Judah in here. He said he has a degree in finance. That's actually the field I work in. So I look. There are exceptions. We do look. If you can get into finance, yes, there are. Look, we can do very well. I know. Trust me, I'm an analyst. So you know. But the thing is, that's not for everybody. Like I had to charm the pants off some people to get the position that I got.
Yeah, because when I was in college, let me tell you, they actually had an undecided line. So that means that they didn't know what major they wanted. And then I've also seen people who came in the same major as me, and then halfway through they jumped into another major. I said, and now they're going to have to struggle to keep up if they want to graduate on time, which many of them did not, because that means they had to completely change their entire curriculum. So if you're going to go into college, make sure you know what you're going to go in for, especially if you do not have a full ride scholarship, because you do not want to be taking out all those loans and you hop out from one major and go into another one. Then you got to take out even more loans. So make sure that you know what you want to go for. The student
Right.
loan debt is no joke. It's the only form of debt you cannot file bankruptcy on.
Yeah, that means you're stuck with it. For all the people who don't understand what he just said, that means you're stuck with it. No matter what job you get, you're gonna get garnished. That's what that means.
Exactly. I learned that a few years ago, and I was actually shocked to hear that. They said student loan debt has literally eclipsed credit card debt, because back in the day, credit card debt was like the type of debt that everybody was getting themselves into, that nobody wanted to get themselves into. And even you can file bankruptcy on that. But student loan debt, that's the new cash cow. And they said, oh, we're going to get our money
Oh yeah.
one way or another.
Oh yeah, that is definitely the new hustle. Is education. There's several different ways where you could get hustled, trying to and better your life if you're not, if you're ignorant or naive of the fact of the ropes and rules of the game. So like me, uh, I went to the military, so I was able to use the GI Bill to go to college. So that I didn't have to pay for my degree, which is excellent. I still got some GI Bill left, actually. I'm trying to find the next thing that I want to use it on. but but yeah, that topic on the educated ratchet, where we're using institutions and such as universities to kind of define self-worth. I talk about how it's not productive, and honestly about the attitudes that come along with those that believe that a degree defines their character, which it
Right.
doesn't.
Okay, I can. The next question I gotta ask you, since we're talking about this, and you can just tell me one of them, because I know we've had discussions before about this particular subject. Since we're talking about Stragg and Ratchet, just name one experience you've had with a Stragg.
Oh man. Okay, one. I remember I met this girl, and this was when I was in my teens. She invited me over. She was a little bit older than me. She was in her 20s, and I was like 16, 17. And so I went over to her place. She invited me over to her place. And at the time, for those who don't really have a background on me, I grew up in the system, which is group homes and things of that nature. And basically, where I was at in Southside Atlanta, if you had a job, if you could get money, if you could go out and produce, you didn't really have to listen to any of the rules. So basically, I was looking for, I was doing whatever I wanted to do, right? And I ended up running into this female who was in her early 20s. And she basically, I came over to the house and, we're chilling, vibing, like, I don't even think, was Netflix even a thing at that time? I don't even think it was.
I
But
don't think so.
yeah, it wasn't even a thing at the time. I think what it was like Red Box, or it might have been some other shit. But basically I came over to the crib and we're chilling, and I start hearing this crying. Now keep in mind she said she didn't have any kids. She kind of gave me the rundown of her life when I met her initially at the mall, right? So when
Yeah.
I get over there, I hear a baby crying. So I go to the, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's that noise? She's like, it's nothing. And then I hear a louder cry, like, I'm like, yo, what is that? And so she like, nothing. So I get up and use the bathroom, and I hear it again while I'm, pissing. So I walk into the room, and there go a baby, a whole baby. I'm talking about a young baby, like little.
Like just born.
Yeah. And in the crib. And I'm like, I'm looking at the baby. I'm like, whose baby is this? And she tried to say it wasn't hers, but it was hers. So my whole thing is, I'm glad we're getting to the point where I see that there's mothers who, want to take pride in being a mother, want to perform the role to the fullest. But a strag is somebody who neglects those duties, those natural biological duties, because it just wasn't any point. It wasn't any point to lie about that. And why would you lie about, a child? It was just ridiculous. And look, you could be a strag at any age. It just depends how far into the fuckery that you've invested yourself.
We will just call her the irresponsible Strag.
Yeah, the irresponsible Strag, exactly. Yo,
she had a whole newborn right there
yeah,
and tried to lie and say it wasn't hers.
Yeah,
like, you off to the wrong foot already. I would be the one on the phone with DSS right now. Like, we got a neglectful mother right here.
I'm telling you,
I'm worried about the well-being of her child.
Yeah, it's been ridiculous, man. Like some of the situations that I've seen, like especially growing up, and why I was able to write the book so quickly is because like being in the environment that I was in a boys' home, you know.
Yeah.
So the thing is, when you get new people who come in, you have people constantly going in and out of that home. You know, it's not too many people that just stay consistent in that one home because some drama happens, some violence happens, or something else happens, and you know, some criminality, whatever it might be. So you have a high turnover rate. So all these stories that I have, and everything that I put in the Ratchet Rouge, it's firsthand accounts of things that I've seen other young Black boys who will one day, you know, are supposedly supposed to be the leaders of the community had to deal with.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see here. I'm just reading the chat. Of course, you know, Ronan here just clowning as usual.
Yeah, Ronan, man, that's my partner in crime when it comes to roasting, man.
What would you say? Like, do you think that who do you think is more redeemable, the Ratchet or the Strag?
The Ratchet, because the Strag is irredeemable. Like even that girl I told you about just now, that was a Ratchet. The Strag is a irredeemable woman. It means that you've doubled down on your fuckery and dysfunction to the point where there's no coming back because it is a way of life for you. Like, you know, a lot of people look at this book and they, you know, because it's attached to the manosphere, they think it's some woman bashing shit. But that's why the Plantation Politics and Absolution chapter is so important.
Mm-hmm. Trust and believe me, this is not a bashing book. It is a rare book, I will say that, because I've never read anything like this before. Like, this is that, and I'll admit, and I think I told you this, it's been a while since I've read a book. And I think I needed something to stimulate my mind and something to learn, because it was a lot of stuff that I learned in it I did not know. Like that whole introduction that was about almost 10 pages long. That could have been a chapter in and of itself.
Oh yeah.
That part right there was like, I had to like stop reading before I got to the first chapter, just reading the introduction when he was giving the history of the Jezebel. I said, this guy right here really did his research. You even gave historical examples.
Yeah,
of what the Jezebel was. But
fact.
In case people don't know who the Jezebel is, let them know.
Oh, well, Jezebel, as we all know, is a biblical character that basically became, you know, through proxy, she gained power, right? Similar to how the Black Inocracy, you know, uses the power of white supremacy or the white supremacist power structure by proxy. And basically, she sacrificed all those who stood for her ended up being slain. And when it came down to it, to just give you a short summary, she had a whole bunch of guards. And back in the day, the guards were slaves. They were eunuchs, right? So they were castrated men. And those men, when the enemy forces ended up conquering her, especially since she had promoted so much dysfunction, she had been treating the people unfairly. She, you know, she was just a selfish natured creature. When the enemy forces ended up at her doorstep, her own slaves, the eunuchs, the castrated men, threw her out of the window to her death, and her body was eaten by dogs. And I use that comparison because as we watch the fall or the decline of white supremacy and the white supremacist power structure, inevitably all those linked to that structure will end up falling, will end up having the same fate as Jezebel. And Jezebel, the whole premise of this is, or the whole meaning behind this is Jezebel had a choice. She was given a choice whether she was going to repent for what she had did, or whether she was going to continue down the path of destruction that she was on, and she chose the latter. So that is the result. So basically, when I say the Ratchet's Rouge, a brother's analysis of the modern Black American Jezebel, I know how my people are religious, so I use the biblical example to highlight the error in our ways today.
That was like I said, that was a perfect breakdown, and that's just a summary of the introduction for those of you who have not read the book. But the introduction goes even more deeper than that. But he just gave you a summary of the entire introduction. And that's just the introduction. That's not even chapter 1.
Right, exactly. That's just the intro. So the contents of the book are, yeah, it gets real. I'm not gonna lie. This book, everybody who's got this book, I get so much mail about this now, and it's only been out a couple weeks, but the response, the love has been tremendous.
Yeah, and speaking of that, how has the feedback been for the book?
Oh, the feedback has been great, and I mean, I've had everybody from professors to just regular everyday brothers, to college educated brothers, to sisters, to pretty much everybody it had given me positive feedback. They said, yo, this book is hilarious, and this book taught me so much. So I appreciate everybody who I know I haven't got to all the emails yet, but everybody who sent me an email, everybody who shouted me out or mentioned my book, it's specifically those in the manosphere, BGS, Cerulean Gray, who actually helped me with the Plantation Politics and Absolution chapter, as well as BGS, the Angry Man, Ken, shout out to Kendra D for editing the book. She's the first one who actually got to read the book. She read it before anybody else did. Shout out to Art New Style for the illustrations. And shout out to Char Willie for helping me, motivating me to actually complete this project. So it was a lot of people. It wasn't just me. It was a lot of people that have played roles in the making of this book. And I did it for the thinking Black men specifically, but it's really for thinking Black men and our supporters, for people who want to see a positive change for their own legacy and for our people as a whole.
Right. Now, one thing I do want to discuss, speaking of artwork, is this cover of this book. Let me know if y'all can see the cover in the chat. What y'all are seeing right now is the cover to the front cover of the book. I want you to explain this cover because it tells a lot.
Yeah, it does. It's in the details though, right? So Art New Style drew this up for me. Salute to that brother who really has reached out to me in a way that not many brothers do. You don't really see that type of camaraderie where you can just ask for something and it's just no pushback. They just, okay, I got you. So shout out to him. But basically, when you look at this cover, it goes right along with the Ratchet's Rouge, right? So when you think about the title, it's a play on words. The rouge is is makeup, and red, especially rouge lipstick, is associated traditionally and historically with whoredom, right? Mm-hmm. So the Ratchet's Rouge is a play on words. It's the Ratchet's makeup, right? The rouge, right? But rouge also means to redden. It means the embarrassment. So it's me pulling back the veil, me taking off the makeup, of the Ratchet and exposing her for what she really is. Because there's a second picture that goes right along with this, but it's at the end of the book.
Right.
If
That was a deep picture too. I don't want to. I
right.
don't know if you should
Don't spoil
explain
it.
that or not. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it.
Don't
Okay.
even spoil it. But it's another picture that goes right along with this. It's the same woman, and that's the only thing I'm gonna tell you about it. But they got, if you notice, she got the Marilyn Monroe photo on her station, right?
Yeah.
Before she goes out and does whatever. Now, she feels decent looking at her in this picture. Why? Because she has this wig on. She's getting ready to perform or getting ready to hit the town. She has her substances that she abuses on the counter, you know, and she's feeling pretty good about herself. She has her role model right there on her mirror because that's what she wished her reflection was. But when you see the second picture, you see what she truly knows about herself. And that is the whole concept behind the Ratchet's Rouge. It is the makeup of the Ratchet, what makes the Ratchet Ratchet, but it is also the embarrassment because I reveal where all of this comes from. And not just me, it's been a bunch of people who did research, not only in the manosphere, but elsewhere who have put in the work to understand, even if it's indirectly. You know, history has a funny way of telling you the truth, even if it's not the question that you ask. You know, it's all part of the scientific method. You might start off with a hypothesis, but after you get the conclusion, the results, after you conclude with whatever results you gain from your experiment, sometimes you'll learn things that you didn't even plan on learning. And I have compiled all of that into this book, and I've made it digestible. I've made it comedic, and I've made it comprehensible for the everyday brother or sister who wants to know the situation that we're living in.
One thing that I had noticed when I first saw the cover of the book was the Marilyn Monroe picture, and I said, "That was that Art's idea to put that there."
No, that was mine. But
Okay, yeah, that was actually very smart, and the reason why I said that is because I can remember all the way going back to when I was in high school, and I used to always see girls wearing shirts or hoodies or anything, mainly shirts that had Marilyn Monroe on there. I'm like, do you know about Marilyn Monroe's past? And why would you idolize this woman? I said there were so many other classy, and I'm gonna say ADOS women who were around during that time that you could have put on your shirt, such as Dorothy Dandridge. Many black girls don't even know who she is.
right.
And I said, that's a shame because I said, and I always say like this, Dorothy Dandridge was the Halle Berry of her time. Ironically, Halle Berry played her in the story of her life. And they're like, oh, wow, she must have been gorgeous. And I said, yeah, she was. And I said, it's a shame many black girls don't know who she is. And she wasn't the only one back then. You could have used anyone. I could go down a whole list of women they could idolize other than Marilyn Monroe. I'm like, you idolizing a woman who slept with a sitting president.
Right.
And probably another member of of that Kennedy family. I'm not sure, but we know she slept with JFK.
Right.
And y'all know this is public knowledge. But it's like, and not only that, you're idolizing a white woman.
Right. But that's what that's the thing. And I covered that in the book as well. The motivations behind the the ratchet behavior, you know, the 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 deep-seated envy that stems from the acceptance of white supremacist ideology, which inevitably instills this inferiority complex within our sisters, and since women are the passers of culture, they pass down the culture to the children, the men and the women of generations yet to come. If we don't do anything to change this, it will continue to perpetuate this feeling of inferiority, you know, which is why black women can run around and not feel cute unless they have a weave. You know, this is the psychology behind it, and that's what I'm addressing in this book. It's a accumulation of examples and an accumulation of stories and uh, trials where people have gone through either experiencing uh, the inferiority complex projected on them by people in power, which in the Black community is the Black anocracy, or it's, you going through life, feeling shunned at every turn, not understanding why it is, why your own people look at you like you're lesser than. And I think that's the beauty of this book, is because we finally get to the root of issues like colorism and things of that nature.
And I'm glad that you actually said that, because this book should also be a teaching lesson for women who do so choose to read it, to, avoid those particular pitfalls. It also makes you, maybe want to get away from that type of element, because it's a very toxic element. And many of us have seen it over and over again. And it's not a good area to want to be around and everything. At that point, because I said this, the Stragg and the Ratchet are nothing more than court jesters. They're basically they're basically an unpolished version of a Tiffany Haddish. As we all know, Tiffany Haddish has pretty much prided herself on being ratchet. But the reason why I say she's a polished one is because she's famous now. But
I
the
mean,
rest, but she can't, but she hasn't really let go of and I don't think she can. That's just who she is.
right. But that's the whole point of why I referenced that biblical character of Jezebel, is because not every Black woman is going to meet every single one of those traits that I listed in the first chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, all of us have some of that. There are men who have some of those characteristics. And
Yes.
we have to understand that this is a mentality, and the mentality stems from adopting an ideology that tells you that you are inferior. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is the gist of the entire book. It's identifying the fuckery and taking an honest look at it and its effects on our people.
And since you mentioned, I'll go ahead and let you explain it, because many people, I've mentioned it before in my video, but many people didn't believe me when I said that this is most likely what we're living in. Can you explain to the people watching, what is the Black gynocracy?
So the Black gynocracy, when I say the Black gynocracy, I am referring to the system of authority within the Black community right now. When you look at the Black community, Black homes, Black families have been defined over time by the single Black mother. And this has been incentivized, and the dysfunction has been subsidized. So it is a perpetual thing to where it has become commonplace. Like you just posted a story, Torian, about the sperminator. And
Yes. Oh,
and there's a homeless girl right now who saw her way ahead through having a baby, regardless of fact that she was gay, regardless of her homeless situation. She looked at that child as a way out of her situation, as a way out of her circumstances, and she has no need in her mind for a Black man. But that's, look, when I talk about the gynocracy, those are the principles that are promoted. It's the reason why you'll hear Black women tell other Black women, do for yourself, don't need no man, don't need no man or no nigga. That's really the term they use. You don't need no nigga. And when they mean that, when they say that, I know we use it generally as a term of camaraderie, but when they say that, subconsciously, they mean that they don't need any Black man. And that is the same attitude that was instilled in them from the plantation and even before the plantation. And I think that's another a key point in the book, is that this shit did not start on the plantation. Colorism didn't even start on the plantation. Colorism started right there on the Gold Coast, on Ghana, or in Africa, which is now present day Ghana.
Yeah, that colorism discussion always ruins, like for me, any panel. Remember I was on I was a guest on BGS for Women last month, and we're not gonna mention the person's name on here, but the conversation was flowing so nicely. But the minute that they mentioned colorism, the conversation literally got stuck on that for the remainder of the time I was there. I almost asked BGS, "Can I have a do-over?" Because it's like the whole thing got hijacked by that conversation, and it happened again this past Monday with somebody else. Like they literally got, when that topic of colorism came up, it completely derailed from the conversation that was being had. And when they broke it all the way down, pretty much turns out that this individual just wanted all first off all the attention on them, and then they basically, if you close your eyes, they sound like a spoiled white woman.
Hey, but that's the end goal in mind. That's why the beef runs so long, and that's actually one of the traits in the book is what you just described. You know, the Jezebel talks in confusion. So when you get situations where chaos erupts because of what religious people have deemed to be the Jezebel spirit, this is what runs rampant within the community. And so when you have constructive conversation, when you have real bills, when you have people exchanging real knowledge, real information, the Jezebel cannot stand that, and it's simply because it's not in her nature. She embraces the chaos because she finds that within that chaos she can find her come up.
You're right. But yeah, like that, like I said, that conversation just constantly is like, it's pretty much like at this point. But anyway, what I know that you talk, like most of the book is focusing on the women, but you also have a portion in the book about the men, and that would be the simp.
Right.
Can you briefly explain to the people what you talk about in the book when it comes to the simp? Because I think that little bit that you did right, because it wasn't a whole lot, but it definitely said a lot.
Right. Right. So it's the simp is, when you look at the conditions in the black community is run by a gynocracy. And gynocracy, for those who aren't familiar with the term, means where women reign supreme. And that's what we see most often in the black community. Now, the Stragg, right, who is an honorary member, of the gynocracy, she is the one raising the Ratchet. She teaches the Ratchet, which is how Ratchet ideology is passed down. And Ratchet ideology is just, a nice way of saying, white supremacy ideology. But the thing is, the Ratchet and the simp grow up in the same home. So the same person or the same people who teach the Ratchet what she knows and how she and teaches her how to operate, that the same people teach the simp, except they teach them two totally different things. E. Franklin Frazier brings these out in his work, where he talks about the difference between how many black women or how many women in the black community are prioritized when it comes to education, versus black boys who are prioritized. How many, and then when you start looking at it, start looking at the scholarships, and you start looking at all the opportunities that are available. Black men or black boys are getting the short end of the stick. So when I talk about the simp, I'm talking about somebody who's came up in that same household of the Ratchet, but has been taught a completely different way. Rather than be pushed into male spaces, he is demeaned, dehumanized, and ultimately groomed to be a tool or a stepping stone for the gynocracy, which is other black women.
And that's why, like, I heard the part when you're talking about black boys getting like achievements and scholarships like that. Two things. That's why whenever I get a story and it talks about, like, say, black boys getting scholarships or stuff like that, I make sure to highlight those on my channel. Sometimes I wish those can get a bit more views than usual, but I know why they don't. And also, that's why when Robert F. Smith did what he did, it became like it literally took the world by storm, because we've never seen something like that before. And it was almost like one of those it's about time moments, like
Right.
when that happened, because we know who is usually expected to get something like that. And I know that was a sigh of relief, not only for those men, but also for their parents, because, we're going back to talking about student loan debt. That's a hassle, especially, coming straight out of college. And I don't know why so many people well, I take that back. I know why some people were opposed to that, but that was besides the point. I even said that in my video. I said, I can look past that. I said, you have some people that are with each other, if you get what I mean, and
Right.
wouldn't even do that.
Right. Right. Yeah, and keep in mind how they tried to discredit that brother because who he decided to be with, who he's having sex with. They tried to discredit that brother, but that goes along with plantation politics. That mindset of why it's so offensive, of why somebody could take this great deed that this brother did for other brothers and try to try to tone it down or try to make it minuscule, even though it's millions. They tried to make the millions he put on it on brother's education minuscule simply because of who he was dealing with, and it has nothing to do with the results. It has everything to do with plantation politics and the fact they look at free thinking black men as runaway slaves.
And one thing that I saw when I saw people talking about that, they were saying, well, Oprah did this and Oprah did that. First off, Oprah opened up a school in another continent when she could have did it here. And then I heard about some dirty stuff going on at that school with those girls. But
Right.
they don't want to talk about that. But they just had to throw someone in there to try to offset what he did. One thing that I saw when I was at work one day was seeing him on the front cover of a newspaper. I forgot which one it was. And I said, it put a smile on my face when I saw it. I said, yeah, now people know who he is. I knew about Robert F. Smith years ago, before this even happened. It's just that he chooses to live a pretty low key life. And let's just say he can more than afford it.
Right. Of course, he's a billionaire.
A
But
multi-billionaire.
yeah, this is the excellence. This is black excellence. And when you look at black excellence and you look at the circumstances and the conditions that are tried to that are attempted to kind of downtone or tone down our best and brightest. This is another tool from the plantation. When you think of the plantation, why is it so offensive to certain black women who subscribe to the same ideology as the black anocracy, which is subscribing to white supremacist ideology? Why is it so offensive that, despite the good that he's doing for other brothers, why is it so offensive that he has a woman outside of his race? And it's because traditionally in this country and historically in this country, we have had people who, well, the order goes black men, or the order goes, excuse me, white men, white women, black women, black men. And the thing is, once you skip a line or skip a space in that line, to them, that's what it seems to be. If you're dealing with a woman outside your race, because of the inferiority complex that she inherently has accepted due to her subscription to white supremacy ideology, she looks at you, since you're below her on the totem pole in her mind, because she's still going off plantation politics. She looks at you as you're a runaway slave, and she might not even understand that that's what she's doing, but this is where that ideology comes from. This is why it's so offensive. This is why it's so much drama and so much ridicule and criticism coming towards that brother. And it's simply because he, regardless of the good deeds he's done or the good works he's done, he's looked at, regardless of his accomplishments, as a lesser man, even amongst our people.
Another example would be, and this person rarely, if ever, did anything for the Black collective under their tenure was when Barack Obama did the My Brother's Keeper thing. That didn't last long, and when I found out why, I was highly pissed when I found out why it did not stick around. That was probably the one decent thing he was going to do for Black people, but because it was for Black boys, it was an issue. And I was watching a YouTuber, shout out to Harvey, was Mr. Superboy, formerly Mr. Superboy. That's how I found out about it. And it was basically an initiative that they were going to go do, for Black boys. I think if I'm not mistaken, it almost sounded like something like maybe a lighter version of the Gray Faulkner plan. Right. And when they said it was going to be for them, then in come these feminazis who look like us and put a stop to it. Right. Because it didn't have Black girls, I guess, attached to it.
Right, but that's the pattern. See that, but that's the deal. That and it's been this way even before the Negro bedwench. It's been this way before the plantation. You see, a lot of this stuff started right there on the Gold Coast. Colorism, a lot of this stuff started right there with the, with the meeting of the locals and Dutch and other European merchants. And it became known for the colorism piece. It became known that the lighter your skin, because of the unions, which they called Khazars on the Gold Coast, because of these unions, it became, enough of them happened where, the wealth of the merchants and lighter skin became, associated with each other, which is how people started associating, colorism wasn't about color. It was about status. What, you know what I'm saying? And now to this day, that's what is perpetuated. People don't do the research to find out, but that's really what it is. Like, so when we see some Black women contesting the fact that there's an initiative prioritizing Black boys, the reason that is because that's plantation politics. It's how the fuck are you going to motherfucking go over here and give these Negroes, give these field niggas some motherfucking benefits and not pass it by me first. It's that attitude. That is what it is.
And also too, and I have one more example. You've heard of these the Black Girls Rock thing. Right. That's honoring, Black women and Black girls of their accomplishments. And like I said, I've had no problem when they did it. I thought that was actually a very interesting idea. But whenever the question came up, why isn't there a Black boys equivalent of it? It always went silent. Like they could never give a reason as to why. It's almost like they're undercut Black boys' achievements. I said I can name a few Black boys or Black men who have done things who are not famous, and it rarely gets talked about anymore. I said I could throw out the name James Shaw Jr. right now, and nobody will barely know who that is. I'm gonna ask the people in the chat. Does anybody in the chat know who James Shaw Jr. is? Grinch, do you know who that is?
Educate me.
I'll explain to you. Then when I say what he did, you're like, oh, that guy. But I want to see what I want to see what the chat says. Okay, Ronan says 2, so I'm gonna assume that's a no.
Yeah, you was right about Dorothy Danvers looking like Halle Berry.
Yeah, that's why they casted the player, because they look just alike.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, Darth Patzer got it correct. James Shaw Jr. was the guy who saved those people in the Waffle House last year from that shooter.
Oh, okay. I remember that. You did a video on that, huh?
Oh, when that came out, I made sure to talk about that. Now, 4 people unfortunately did get killed, but that was before he was able to apprehend the guy. But this guy risked his life to get that gun away from that man. He actually has battle scars. And because of that, the nation, the establishment shockingly looked out for him. This guy does not have to work another day in his life. Like they literally, because he has a daughter, and he literally gets like maybe a monthly stipend to cover himself for the rest of his life. He never has to work again because he was seen as a national hero.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
see, and people rarely talk about him now. When all of that was happening, he got a lot of praise. He even got a lot of praise from Chadwick Boseman, who played Black Panther. And ironically, Black Panther came out last year. So what Chadwick Boseman did was he invited him to the MTV Movie Awards. Chadwick Boseman had won in the category. He called the guy up to the stage and gave him his award because he says, "You're the real hero." Now that's another black man who is out of his pay grade doing something for a black guy that he probably just met that evening.
Right.
And even that rarely got any, and even that got really got coverage, but I got a hold of it and I talked about it.
Right. And that's important. That's why your platform is important, because these stories need to get out here because look, the narrative, people subscribe to the mainstream narrative, and the mainstream narrative, what it's been ever since the birth of this country, is niggas ain't shit.
Yes.
So you telling the actual factuals about real life situations that are going on, nobody else is going to be doing that, and I think that is the value of your platform, is because it's real journalism. Like, look, I've seen you make videos about people who have did, who might look like us, who have did, despicable things. But at the same time, you report the facts, just like how you report the facts on when brothers do things and they go unnoticed. When we can flip open a newspaper or open our news feed on YouTube or whatever and see, a million people looking at, oh, this guy saved a cat out of a tree, when there's black men out here who are sacrificing, who have made big commitments, who have went the distance for their people, but because we as a people subscribe to white supremacist ideology, we refuse to acknowledge the greatness of the men from any generation. You know what I mean? And that's why it's important that you do what you do, bro.
Yeah, like that's like I even said and quoted this. I said that I like doing a good percentage of the videos that I do or the commentaries that I talk about. But when I get positive stories, I love doing those because they don't get a lot of coverage from mainstream media, as I call it. So when people send me those things, and I can't even take all the credit. I have a loyal subscriber base. And I think I told you this when one time I accidentally deleted all of my messages out of my inbox. I had over 500, whether they were read or unread. By the end of the week, I had almost 200 more new messages. So I have a loyal subscriber base who sends me stuff to keep me going. And a lot of times I'll get repeat emails because I think a lot of them like the fact that I shout them out whenever I get them. So they like, if I can get this historian first, he'll shout me out, and hopefully he does. So that's just me. That's just me acknowledging, that's where I got my source from. Because when I was in college and we had to do that senior paper, we had to cite our sources because we didn't come up with it. So it can't. I have to give credit where credit is due when people send me stuff. And some people, they don't have my email because I took it off because of trolls. So what do? They follow me on Twitter and send me stories that way.
Right. And look, and that's what makes this a unique platform, because it's news, it's people, it's news that people should hear by people who are people. It's not a big machine. It's true grassroots journalism. And that is hella rare. You can't find that shit anymore, man. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody's sponsored by somebody, which is why books like the Ratchet Rouge most likely won't be popular books. And it's regardless of how much information is stuffed into it, It's the thing is, I'm not sponsored by nobody. These are the cold hard facts. It's a lot of things that a lot of people who subscribe to the white supremacy ideology won't be able to accept or don't want to accept, even though they can do the research, even though they can go figure it out for themselves, they still won't. But that doesn't change the righteousness in what we do. We do what we do because we're giving the people something that is good for them, instead of the bloviating bullshit that everybody else does.
Exactly. Oh, and you know what? Talking and grubbing media, I'm glad you mentioned that because I talked about that too. He said the coach in Portland doesn't get his props for preventing that school shooting that happened in Oregon last month. And I did talk about that on my channel. He really did not get any coverage at all outside of maybe local. I didn't see it on CNN. This guy prevented an entire school from being shot up. Black coach. And I think he used to play football too. So when he tackled that guy felt it.
Yeah, courageous, man. Look, black people, and I talk about this in the brotherhood. Black men especially have always been the best. As a military veteran, I know the history of our military veterans, and we have an excellent combat record. We are the most proficient, most efficient fighting force whenever we're put into a unit. Why do you think? There's been songs made about units that we've had. What do you think Buffalo Soldiers were? You feel me? Look, we're so proficient that even the people who were regulating, even the people that were fighting, respect us. And this is why we can have hip hop, something like hip hop, cover all corners of the globe. It's simply, and this is something that was created by us, by descendants of slaves. So my thing is, when it comes down to realizing who we are and what we're capable of, man, it is up to us, because nobody's going to tell us what we're worth. We have to instill that value in ourselves.
That's why I always say we are the trendsetters of the world. And shout out to Solo Dolo for the donation.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've always said that we are the trendsetters of the world. Nothing really gets or becomes trendy until we give it our stamp of approval. Of course, unfortunately, we'll never get the credit for it because, well, I don't even need to go into a whole diatribe about that. I could save that for a whole commentary. I probably already talked about it.
Right. Facts, man. We're the truth, man. And can't nobody look. The thing is, when you start looking at the actual factuals, the history bears it out. History tells this. Look, we don't have to lie or create or concoct narratives. With history, facts, empirical evidence bears this out. And that's the point of the Ratchet's Rouge, man. Is to ensure that every black man knows his worth.
You want to know why some people don't know their history?
Go ahead, tell me.
Because they don't. It's something that they don't do. You know what I was getting ready to say?
Boy, niggas don't read. I know how we do it. Niggas don't read in this motherfucker. For real.
And another narrative that needs to go away. Black women, stop saying black men don't protect you. I just talked about a guy who saved this pregnant woman in the parking lot from this white guy for trying to attack her.
I've seen that video. Man, I be watching all your videos. Your videos like the news, bro.
And not only that, it was another black guy in the Easter Bunny costume who had to protect this black woman from this white.
Oh, I seen that shit too. I seen that.
He literally risked his life, not so much his life, but also his well-being, because the guy has warrants. That's how he was keeping himself being hit, and he had no other choice but to expose himself after that because the video went viral.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So I ain't gonna lie, he got busy in the bunny suit, man.
Right, that Easter Sunday beatdown.
Yeah,
in the bunny suit, like he went in on him with that Easter bunny suit on.
Oh my God, that shit was hilarious. He put the pause to that boy, literally, bro. Put the pause on him, man. For real.
But so people can go ahead and they can buy your book on Amazon.
Right. My book is available on Amazon. It's the Ratchet's Rouge. It's the first one that comes up. It's available on Kindle and in paperback. It has a tremendous amount of knowledge in there. And if you are a free thinking Black person, male or female, this book is something that you will love.
Yeah, I actually left the link in the description so people can go ahead and purchase the book. I know Cass was in here earlier and she was posting a link throughout the chat. So shout out to her for doing that. That's why I like people like Cass and Shar and Kendra. I called them the Trinity of the Black Order for a reason.
Yeah, those ladies are real women, man. And it's hella refreshing every time you talk to them, man. You can tell the difference, man.
Right, like whenever Kendra goes live, or whenever Shar uploads a video on her channel, or whenever Cass decides to finally create her channel, I always get a smile across my face because I already know that it's going to be some good commentary that's going to follow.
Oh yeah, man. I'm waiting on look. If Cats make a channel, man, I'm gonna be the first sub, man. Cause she funny as hell. She got that
He really is
sarcastic. She got that sarcastic humor that's hilarious. You just gotta catch it, man. But she's
exactly
funny as hell, man.
That's the only time you really see Cass come out is when she's on that BGS for Women's panel. If you really want to see Cass' personality, go over there every Friday night because the stuff like with the stuff she does be saying, it is like in a sarcastic tone, and if you don't catch it, you won't get it. But if you do catch it, it's funny as hell.
Yeah, real talk, man. But look, wit is something for the intelligent, man. If you're witty, man, that's a sign of what you know, man. And Cats is hella witty, as well as Kendra. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yes. I told Kendra in her chat today, like she already knows what line she says that makes me laugh. and another one that kind of makes me laugh too is whenever she says the word grandiose. She be killing me when she say that.
Yeah, man. The Black Order is real, man. Like Black Order is filled with real people who do real things. Shout out to Kevin Samuels, hashtag show your work, man. This book, it's my work, but it's also a accumulation of all the members in the Black Order, all the members of the Manosphere who have contributed, including you, Cerulean Gray, BGS Idmore, the Angry Man. This is something that I came into through my own work, but also the tutelage and the camaraderie and the discussions and the dialogue from all my fellow like-minded brothers who know that we all we got. You dig?
Exactly. So I would definitely highly suggest, if you have not purchased the book, that you go ahead and purchase that book. And I'm gonna say this: if you do not go and purchase the book, there's a Petty Pendergrass video with your name on it coming soon. That's one. Like I've always said, don't think of it as an insult. Just think of it as an honor.
Yeah, you don't want to be on that Summer Jam string with Summer Jam screen with Petty Pendergrass rolling the real tape, man. You don't want to do it, man. You'll cue the violins on your ass, man.
So you didn't want to buy the book, huh?
And put you on that Summer Jam screen. That's not where you want to be, man. Real talk, man. But you let me come on your platform. You know what I'm saying? You one of the honest journalists out here, man, and I respect that profession, especially when it's carried in a way where it's about honesty, it's about truth and integrity, man. So salute to you. I appreciate your audience. Thank you for letting me come on, man.
Oh, no problem. Like I said, like today was as much your platform as it was mine. This is always my platform, but I've always said, I'm very select in who I allow come on. This is way different than certain panels.
Right.
This is much more calm.
Yeah, it's way better, man. Like to be honest, man, this is how it should be. Brothers should be able to collaborate without the rah shit, you know. And me and you, you know, the fact that me and you happen to be of the same mind and the same purpose just makes it even better, bro.
Right. And also, before we go, make sure y'all head on over and subscribe to Grinch's channel. You want to let the people know what your channel is, or
Yeah,
you want to
go
put it in you can put it in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'll paste my links right now in the chat. You know, it's the Grinch God. You know, the hand sipper, gorilla and Strengh killer. Y'all know what it is. Hey, I'm gonna drop my links. These are all my links. I got a Patreon. You could come over to Patreon and we could chop it up about whatever. Submit, you know, whatever topics you want me to cover. You know, just like Torian, I'm one of these people who I don't have a narrative. I'm about the truth, man, which is why I respect the journalism he does, is because it's not coming from a place of I already have an agenda. It's coming from a place where I'm reporting the facts, the actual factual shit that's important, that is needed for education and elevation, man. So real
Exactly.
talk. Check
Exactly. Raw,
on
uncut,
Patreon.
uncensored, unfiltered,
Right.
unadulterated. Just like I am over here. Like I always tell my people, I am an equal opportunity analyst. I will talk about any and everybody, black, white, straight, alternative lifestyle. Hell, if your dog has done something, we can talk about them too.
Facts. And that's what it is. And you know, I gotta give a big shout out to my brother BJ, man, Black Onyx, because the second half of the book, the parts that you find the most hilarious, the educated Ratchet and all that, look, what stemmed the second part of the book is a conversation I had with Black Onyx. Man, y'all go check out my fellow Black Order member. You know
I
what I'm
actually, they
saying?
actually did uh give him a shout out one time before on my community tab for people to go and subscribe to him over there. And in
Yeah,
case y'all didn't know, some of y'all probably may have been subscribed to Grinch and didn't even realize it because it was a video that I did a response to. Now I rarely do response videos, but that video that you did about the black boys, you haven't done one in a while. And I said those
right,
were like my favorite series of videos. And I think it was the first one you did. I said I have to do a response to this video because like when I watched that, it stuck. It was staying in my head, like the stories that you had about your situation when you was coming up. Like I don't think I've ever heard about that something like that in real time. And to see
yeah,
where you're at now from where you are then, you basically made it your mission to not be a statistic. And I have no other choice but to say that I am very proud of you for doing that because not many people will make it out of your situation. I'm sure you've always heard of the same stereotypical thing. Oh, you ain't this, you ain't that. You're not going to live past this and that. That's the
right.
story. Listen, that is the story of black males in this establishment.
Right. Facts.
At this
Facts.
point, we all need a support group.
For real. For real, man. Like, look, man, like that the Abandoned Boys series.
Yeah,
Look,
that's what it was.
yeah, I decided to you know, share the stories of you know, not just myself, but of people, of young black boys who came up around me in the same circumstances in the group home, seeing them going through their struggles and seeing how, you know, that the help, if there was any, was just absolutely inadequate and just at a ridiculous low level. You know, the lack of empathy in the black community is a real deal, and it stems from that place where, you know, we think that we're inferior, but really, if you look at history, we have proven that we are anything but. You
Mm-hmm.
know? So that's why at the end of every stream, you know, I say we all we got, because it's the truth, man. It's the
Exactly.
truth.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna end it off here. This was a very, very good stream. I enjoy doing streams such as this. Shout out to Grinch for coming on. Your tour kicked off yesterday. I was your second stop, and I think Kendra is your next stop.
Yep.
That should be interesting.
Yeah,
I
of
will
course.
definitely be listening to that tomorrow.
For sure.
Shout out to everybody who listened, who was in the chat communicating. Shout out to everybody who donated. And make sure y'all go and purchase this book because this is Black literature right here. Stimulate your minds. If it makes you feel some type of way, hey, maybe it could have been talking about you. But then again, maybe it's not talking about you. Maybe it's talking about somebody you know that you wish could change. And not only just buy the book for yourself, but read it and then pass it on to somebody else who
Facts.
needs to read it. I not want to read it, but needs to read it because I think everybody should be reading this. This should be in everybody's bookshelf.
Right. Facts.
Shout
And
out to let me read the super chat right quick. Shout out to Gregory Wyatt. He said, I just purchased Grinch God's book on Amazon. I'm looking forward to the 26th when it arrives. See, you just got a sale.
hey, facts. Hey, and you know what? Ain't nothing better than brothers supporting other brothers. So salute to that brother. What's his name? Gregory Wyatt.
Gregory Wyatt.
Salute to that brother. And man, salute to you for having me on, man. Y'all already know what it is, man. It's your boy, the Grinch, the fucking hen sipper, gorilla and Strengh killer, Black Order world. You already know what it is. Gray regime, Idmore dynasty. Man, we changing minds and saving lives, man. Let's get it.
All right, y'all. And with that being said, make sure y'all like, comment, and share. And I will talk to you all in the next one.